What's going on, guys? It's Cimoooooooo. So today I'm bringing you a first look at the brand new Evil Eye Archetype. Now this is set to debut in the Infinity Chaser set, one of those deck building sets that's had archetypes in the past like Necros or Sky Strikers. So I wanted to see, since we have most of the cards revealed, is this going to be the next one of those archetypes that we can expect to see in the competitive metagame? So I figured we'd go ahead and look at these cards together. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you guys don't miss a single upload. And if you really love the content that I produce on this channel, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member, because it's thanks to the continued support of people like Sir Dwaggy that I'm able to bring you this content on a daily basis. So if you're interested, hit the join button down below or check out the links in the description. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So switching on over to the monitor here, we're going to show the first three cards from the Evil Eye Archetype. So first up, we have probably like the searcher of the deck, which we can expect from most archetypes. It is Surziel, Watcher of the Evil Eye. So level 4 Dark Fiend, 1600 attack, 1400 defense. If this card is normal summoned, you can add one Evil Eye card from your deck to your hand, except itself. So looking pretty good so far. I mean, this is basically like Alistair the Invoker, if you want to look at it that way, except it kind of searches anything in the archetype rather than just a specific card. The second effect, which can only be used once per turn, while Evil Eye of Selene is equipped to this card, as a quick effect, you can target one special summon monster your opponent controls and destroy that monster. Now, Evil Eye of Selene is kind of what this entire archetype is centralized around. It's an equip spell that basically, when it's equipped to a Evil Eye monster, it essentially enables these monsters to have additional effects. So, in Sky Striker, how if you have 3 spells engraved, the Sky Striker spells get effects. Kind of think that, except it's an equip spell, so that has like its own ups and downs, and we'll discuss that as we get to the equip spell itself a little bit later on. The third effect, though, during the next standby phase after this card's second effect activated, destroy one card you control. So I really don't like this because it kind of takes away the whole purpose of having the second effect in the first place, because you're not really generating advantage if you have to pop your own stuff, but there is a card later on that kind of mitigates this, so maybe it's not too bad. I don't know. I just really don't like that you have to pop something of your own if you want to use that second effect, and it's mandatory, so I mean, you can't really get out of it. So moving on to the Link monster. This is Zarakeel, King of the Evil Eye. So Link 3 Dark Fiend Link effect monster. Its arrows are like Deco Talker, so up and then bottom left and right. 2600 attack. If it is Link summoned using a monster with 2600 or more attack, this card can make a second attack during each battle phase. I'll tell you how to get to that in the next card, but when the Evil Eye of Selene is equipped to this card, as a quick effect, target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. So I like that a lot. That's pretty good. It's only, again, once per turn, but you use it during your turn as well as your opponent's turn, so do keep that in mind. So that means you effectively get like 2 pops. Then the third effect, during the next standby phase after the second effect is activated, negate the effects of one effect monster this card points to. Now, what I like about this is that if you put this card in the extra monster zone and it's pointing towards one of your opponent's monsters, you could effectively pop one of their cards, then negate the effects of another one. And yeah, sure, they could like link it off and kind of bypass this, but depending on, the board state, that effect negation can be pretty cool. And so the fact that you can negate your opponent's monsters could be very valuable. So it's pretty neat. I like the fact that it can target any card. It doesn't have to be like face up. I mean, a lot of upside. It does require Evil Eye monsters specifically, so that might be like the biggest drawback, but overall, it's not bad. That moves us on, though, to the equip spell, Evil Eye of Selene. So, equip only to an Evil Eye monster. The equipped monster cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects. Also, it cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. So, that's pretty good, but it doesn't have protection itself. And I think that's the biggest problem here, because your opponent could just use any sort of spot removal like Nightmare Phoenix or Mystical Space Typhoon or whatever, and just pop this card, and then it completely bypasses the fact that it's making a monster basically almost immune to everything. Each time you activate the equipped monster's effect or activate another Evil Eye spell or trap card, the equipped monster gains 500 attack, and if it does, you lose 500 life points. So this is how you get to that 2600 or more attack requirement for Zarakeel, because you just equip something like Surziel with it, who's 16, and then just activate effects to get it up to 26, and then you can like link off with it. So that's kind of where that comes in. Again, that's mandatory. You don't get the option. So I mean, if life points become a factor if you're going like into end of match procedure or something, that could get a little bit dicey, so just keep that in mind. And then third and finally, as a once per turn effect, if this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 1,000 life points, banish an evil eye spell or trap from your graveyard, accept itself, and set this card. So the big problem with this, and any archetype honestly that revolves around a single card, is that the card needs to have some sort of recursion, and while this does, it's too slow. Like if this had like an effect like a Noble Knight spell or trap where it gets to like re-equip itself to one of the evil eye monsters on your field, that would be a lot more useful and would be very good, because then you use like the quick effect of one of your monsters, and then like say it gets destroyed, then you re-equip it to another monster, and then it triggers another effect, and then you keep going down the chain. So I feel like that would have been better than this very slow like spell speed like one way that you have to recur this card. So I don't know, like I feel like I just feel like it's too held back to really be competitively viable, because there's just too many weaknesses. It can be hit by so much removal. It doesn't really have enough speed to keep like your evil eye cards going. I'm not really too sure, but let's go ahead and see the rest of the cards here that got revealed a little bit later on. So next up we have Medusa, Watcher of the Evil Eye. So level 4 Dark Fiend, 1400 attack, 1600 defense. When it's normal summon, target an Evil Eye card in your grave except itself, add it to your hand. So that recursion is nice. I mean, you can get back like your Saraziel, the card that just normal summons, and just add something else. So I mean, that's pretty good. If this card is equipped with Evil Eye of Selene, target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish that monster. So having that kind of disruption could be nice. I mean, you could use it in response to anything that would trigger in the graveyard that would like resurrect itself, so like Fairy Tale Snow, for instance. I mean, having like that DD Crow kind of effect is nice, but Called by the Grave is just kind of better and does pretty much everything this does, so I don't think it's too great. And then once per turn during the next standby phase after the second effect was activated, banish one card in your graveyard. Now, there are ways to recur those banished cards, which we'll get to a little bit later on, but again, this card's like okay. I think the first effect is probably the best, just having that recursion. The second effect's gonna come up every now and then, but honestly, I wouldn't bank on it too much. That's going to move us on, though, to Bagilius or Bahilius, Retainer of the Evil Eye. So level 3 Dark Fiend, 400 attack, 2000 defense. You can only special summon a card with this card's name first effect once per turn, and you can only activate the second effect once per turn as well. If you control an Evil Eye monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and during your main phase, you can send one Evil Eye spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard. So I guess some pretty cool synergy is that, you know, you could send something like the equip spell if you really want to get it going, because then you can set the equip spell and then equip it to something like one of your other monsters, so that kind of gets the engine going to an extent. It also doesn't specify it has to be the equip spell, so you can spend any, or you can send any of the other spell traps we're going to be discussing a little bit later on. I think it's okay. Again, I don't think it's like too crazy of a card. It helps get to your Link plays because you need Evil Eye monsters if you want to go into the Link 3, but overall it's not bad. I think just having that in tandem with some of the other cards is okay. Now we're going to get to the field spell, the Pareidolia, Domain of the Evil Eye. So you can only activate it once per turn, so it's kind of like a Magical Meltdown, because when it's activated, you can add an Evil Eye monster from deck to hand. Now, the biggest downside to this is that if your opponent has Ash Blossom or any way to disrupt this, you're basically screwed if you have no other way to get to any of your other starters. So that's the downside of cards like this, but anytime a field spell effectively is a +1 in this regard, I think that's very, very good. It just has a very, very strong downside if they have negation. Once per turn while you control Selene in a spell or trap zone, when an Evil Eye monster you control is attacked during damage calc, you can activate this effect. Damage you take from this battle is also inflicted to your opponent. I don't feel like this is ever realistically going to come up enough that this matters, but I mean, I guess in like very fringe scenarios, but I guess it is what it is. And then the third effect, if this card in a field zone is destroyed by an effect, target an Evil Eye monster in your graveyard, add that monster to your hand. So you remember with the first monster, the one that has the search effect, if it uses the effect when it's equipped with the equip spell to pop a monster that was special summoned, you have to destroy one of your own cards on the next standby phase. Well, you can pop this field spell, which honestly, it's not really worth keeping on the field because the second effect isn't that good, and then you can add an Evil Eye monster to your hand, so it kind of effectively solves the problem that you have to pop one of your own cards. So I think that's really good that there's that little combo right there to keep your, you know, flow of resources going, especially because even if it leaves the field, I'm pretty sure you're still gonna have to like follow that effect. So yeah, definitely a really good way to kind of like bypass the downside of that searcher card. Next up, we have Forbidden Awakening of the Evil Eye. Can only be activated once per turn for a normal spell card. Special summon one Evil Eye monster from your hand or graveyard. If Evil Eye of Selene is in your spell and trap zone, you can special summon one Evil Eye monster from your deck instead. So that's very, very powerful because anytime there's a card that says special summon from the deck, it's immediately something that catches my attention. But in this archetype, it's a little bit, you know, I think it's held back because if they just stop that first normal summon of yours, you have nothing to equip Evil Eye of Selene to, and then you can't use the Forbidden Awakening to special summon another card from your deck. So it makes the deck very reliant on the normal summon, very similar to something like Magical Musketeer. I'm noticing a lot of similarities there, that this deck has a very similar pattern of weaknesses compared to Musketeer. So really cool card, but again, I think that, again, the spell can also be popped, so like, I don't know, like it's hard to say. I don't really think it's good enough just because of the limitations on how they didn't make the equip spell over the top enough for something like that to be good. But then we get Curse of the Evil Eye, quick play spell. Again, once per turn. If you control an Evil Eye monster, target a spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy it. If Evil Eye of Selene is in your spell and trap spell or trap zone, this card destroyed by this effect is banished instead of sent to the graveyard. So again, yeah, you have spell and trap removal, but honestly, like, you could just play Cosmic Cyclone. I guess you could, it's like searchable spell and trap removal, but I guess how relevant is that realistically going to be? I wish that just said target a card your opponent controls and destroy, but that might have been a little bit too good. But I feel like, again, I just feel like the cards in this, like, they're decent, but they're not, like, pushed enough to really, like, be good enough, especially at the competitive level, for sure. Now, we do have the continuous spell here, Watchful Rule of the Evil Eye. Again, it can only be used once per turn. You can banish an Evil Eye card from your grave to activate this, and if you do, draw one card. I really like that because it recycles as soon as you play it, so it's kind of like an Upstart Goblin in a weird way there. Once per turn, when an Evil Eye monster equipped with Selene attacks, during damage calc, activate this effect, banish that opponent's monster. That's pretty good. I mean, I just kind of wish it just said if Evil Eye Selene is on the field, like, you could just banish monsters as long as it's up. Again, like, I just feel like it's too specific because you need to have a monster equipped with Evil Eye of Selene and this just to banish a monster, and you have to attack. So like, that is just way too many steps just to get a monster banished. I don't know. And then if this card in a spell or trap zone is destroyed by an effect, target up to 3 your banished Evil Eye cards, return those cards to the graveyard. So this is cool because it synergizes again with that first effect of the Searcher, because if you pop a card, then you can recycle the cards that are in the banish zone. But again, it's like, you don't even get a draw off of this. It's not like a mini like Pot of Dichotomy or whatever, like anything, like a little Jar of Avarice, Pot of Avarice type effect. You just shuffle them back in. I wish it just gave you the draw. I feel like this deck really needs that. So again, I just feel like these cards weren't really pushed enough in that regard. Getting onto the traps though, we have a normal trap, Jealous Disruption of the Evil Eye, again once per turn. If you control an Evil Eye monster, target a monster on the field, return that monster to the hand. If Evil Eye of Selene is in your spell and trap zone, target 2 monsters with this card's effect instead. This is a pretty good card. I mean, it targets, which is a little bit bad, but I mean, it bounces them, so I mean, it's not destructive removal, so this would work against like Thunder Dragons, for instance, and if you have Selene, you can bounce 2 of them back to the extra deck. I think it's a really, really good effect. Again, it's conditional on having Selene to be, you know, get the full benefit out of it, but overall, I think it's not bad. Not to mention, you can send it off of the Behilius, and then you can like add it back. So I mean, yeah, it's like, it's all right. Then we have the continuous trap, Death Control of the Evil Eye, again once per turn. When your opponent special summons a monster in attack position, if you control an Evil Eye monster with higher attack than that monster, target that monster to activate this card, take control of that monster. And if you control Evil Eye Selene in your spell and trap zone, it's treated as an Evil Eye monster. When that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. So I think the biggest downside of this card is how specific it is, in that you need to control an Evil Eye monster, and that Evil Eye monster has to have more attack than a monster that your opponent special summons. It doesn't work on normal summon either, so that's also very specific. I don't know. It's a pretty neat card. Anytime there's like a take control type of effect, it's good, but like, I don't know. I think it's too specific to really be that viable. I mean, if you get the Link monster out, I mean, 2600, you're pretty much going to be able to steal whatever you want. But then again, you know, I'm not too sure. I feel like it's, again, too specific. Lastly, we have the counter trap card Sentence of the Evil Eye. So again, once per turn activation, when a spell or trap is activated while you control an Evil Eye monster, negate that activation, and if you do, destroy that card. If you control Evil Eye Celine in your spell or trap zone, this card's activation and effect cannot be negated. Now, I feel like this is a little bit redundant because this is a trap card, so like, what really do you need to have? Like, your opponent would have to have something like Red Reboot or like Wiretap or like Solemn Judgment to make it so that this would actually be relevant, because it's already spell speed 3. I can understand if this wasn't a counter trap, that could actually be a pretty useful clause, because then they can't use counter traps in response. But like, the fact that it's already a counter trap makes the last part completely redundant, so I really don't understand that. I think the effect's good. It's like a partial Infernity Barrier, doesn't stop effects, which is kind of lame. It just stops spell and trap activations, so that's okay. But again, I feel like kind of just the whole summary of this archetype is like, the cards aren't pushed enough. I feel like if you have an archetype that centralizes around one specific card, in this case Evil Eye of Celine, the cards need to have a really big payoff, because you're running the risk of having this one card just basically shatter your deck's entire strategy if it happens to leave the field. So ultimately, I don't think it's going to be like the next new Sky Striker or Necroz, but it's pretty cool. The artwork's pretty sick. Might be a fun deck for you to take to locals and have a bit of fun with. So guys, those are just my thoughts. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about the Evil Eye archetype. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member, because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.